Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, bana besu moreneng, sanubonani, poyanand, dear maki baya moi, dear sieni. So good to meet with you again tonight on our regular channel where we discuss different issues, where we have guests who will be sharing some important things, information from what they are doing, from wherever they are doing that, they will be telling you tonight. But we want to greet you firstly before we start. It's so good to see you. And I'm not alone, as always, but my co-pilot tonight is not sitting next to me. It's a mystery. You need to know how a plane can be flown by two pilots who are not sitting next to each other. We'll tell you one day. Okay, co-pilot, it's your time to greet all our people who have joined us tonight.
Well, thank you, and good evening. And good evening again, President. Good evening to all of our viewers who have joined, supporters from wherever you are around the country and possibly even around the world. Always glad to have you with us, to listen, to hear what the ACDP's position is on some key pertinent aspects within the country. We know that there's been some disinformation that has been said and spoken about the ACDP, and this is an opportunity for us to correct some of that disinformation. So we want you to stay tuned in and be informed and hear it from the horse's mouth. And remember that South Africa needs the ACDP and the ACDP needs you.
You heard him well. South Africa needs the ACDP and the ACDP needs you. Also, you and your family and your neighbors, ACDP needs you all. So who is the first tonight to say greetings? Bernard Hothrill. He says to President Mishwe and Deputy Wayne Thring, thank you for keeping us right up to date with what's going on. Joanne and Bernard Hothring in Durban North, Ward 36. Good evening, good evening. Now we also have Cass van der Bijl Meth. Good evening, Mr. President, Honorable Deputy President Wayne Thring, and my ACDP family. Warm wishes all the way from Port Shepstone in the Ugu District, KZN. Maureen Kumalo, all the way from Soweto, says, good evening, my honorable, I was not done with Maureen. Good evening, my honorable President, Ntate Mishwe, and ACDP family. evening, President, your co-pilot, and ACDP family at large, and that is Wongi Ngotho. Jamil Isop. Good evening, Honorable President, Deputy President, and ACDP family. We eagerly await solutions to rebuild a beautiful South Africa. NPK Progress, an interesting one. Greetings, my President, Councillor Kumalo from KZN, Mhlaba Yalingana region. My apology, NPK. Tokiso Mputi, all the way from Fostora. Salute, honorable leadership. Yeah, that's it for tonight. Okay, I'm sure some of you saw me do this. Okay, you must please excuse me. It's hot this evening, and there are mosquitoes around because it rained a little bit. So now we have mosquitoes. So when you do this, you see me do this, you must please excuse me. I'm not friends with mosquitoes. They know I'm their enemy. They are my enemy. Sometimes they attack me. So when I do this, please understand, is to get rid of mosquitoes. So welcome everybody. Now, last week, we received about 24 questions. Individuals who want to know more about the ACDP, they are not ACDP members. They are just individuals who are sifting different policies, looking at values, weighing parties, who is saying what in order to make informed decisions. So from the 24 questions they asked us, we are going to focus tonight on only 4 because we have guests and we don't want them to be with us and to leave without giving everything that we want them to give tonight. So 4 questions. The first one, he says, okay, I'm reading it the way they send it to us. I have a question for the leadership of ACDP. It is a 2-part question. Number 1, they say, who are the ACDP funders? What we're going to do, I'm going to do 2 of them, answer 2 of them, and my co-pilot is going to answer 2 of them. All right, 2 of these questions. So the first question for my co-pilot is, who is funding the ACDP?
Thank you, President. I think that this is a simple question, and yet there are so many who also get it wrong when it comes to the ACDP. But the simple answer to this simple question is that the ACDP is funded primarily by our members and our supporters. The ACDP does not have big funders like your larger political parties. Now, where so many people get it wrong, so that's the straight, simple answer to what for us is possibly a simple question. But where many people get it wrong is that they presume that because when declarations are made in terms of funding and they do not see the ACDP's name making those declarations, that the ACDP has something to hide. Well, the truth is that the ACDP doesn't have anything to declare, because when we have to make declarations in terms of our funders, the declarations have to be made for every donation to the ACDP, which is above 100,000 Rand. And the fact that there is no declaration. Now, remember also that we are legally bound. In terms of the law, the ACDP is legally bound to declare, every political party is legally bound to declare every donation above 100,000. And the mere fact that the ACDP's name is not on the declaration list is because we have no donors over 100,000 Rand. And so that, to those who are listening out there, hopefully it sends a signal to those who want to support the ACDP and want to try to assist the ACDP, this is the right time to do it. If you want to see the ACDP declaring funding that comes in, well, we would appreciate that 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, like some of the other political parties, and then gladly we will declare in terms of the law. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. There is a guy in National Parliament, who does not like us because we are supporters of Israel. Even today, he said, members on my left who always get brown envelopes from the Zionist Israel. Now, friends, Israel is not giving us 1 dime, no 1 cent, and no government is giving us any cent. We are God-fearing people, and we are transparent. We walk in the light. Just for, if you hear people say they're getting money for Israel, Israel is not supporting. Actually, I understand by law, they're not allowed to donate to political parties. All right. So now, the second question, the person is saying, ACDP, why the change of heart from first saying no to the Moonshot Pact and now joining them? We said to you, friends, that ACDP rejected the Moonshot Pact from the beginning. We gave reasons that I'm not sure whether to repeat them here, but one of the reasons we said we do not want to be part of any coalition before the elections, because the challenge would be if a number of political parties form a coalition before the elections and they still want to maintain their independence. The question is, whose policies are they going to promote? And obviously, we said, no, we want to remain independent. We don't want to be part of any coalition before the elections. And obviously, we also said we are Christians who don't believe in hatred. The person who came up with the idea of the Moonshot Pact, who is the leader of the DA, said, we are going to challenge and to fight public enemy number 1, the EFF. So ACDP said when we responded, we do not believe in the politics of enemies. We remember that in the past, people, actually even recently, people have been killed in politics. If you listen to the news, you hear that even in Durban, councillors are killed time and again. They are killed. Why? Because they are treated as enemies. So the politics of enemies breeds assassinations. And we don't believe in the politics of enemies because we know what the consequences would be. So we said, no, we can't be there. We don't want to treat the ANC. We don't agree with the ANC. I may even say we don't like the ANC. We don't like their policies, but we don't treat them as enemies. And we don't call them enemies. We don't agree with the EFF. They are rough, they are disrespectful, but they are not enemies. Okay? We hold different positions on political issues, but we do not treat them. And we do not treat anybody in South Africa, even the party of the wizards and the witches, if it can be established, we will still not hate them. Because, you know, as a Christian, we are bound, we are mandated, we are commanded to love even our enemies. So we differ, but we are not enemies. So we are not part of the Moonshot Pact. The ACDP is part of a multi-party charter. The difference is Moonshot Pact, all parties come and form a coalition before the elections, but the Moonshot Pact, I want to read something for you about the Moonshot Pact. Now, if you see, look at this logo, the logos of the different parties. Obviously, we were the last to join. That is why you see us as the last one, because we were the last to join. Okay? Now, the first sentence now, it says, whereas the parties to the agreement, increase the phone, sorry. Whereas the parties to this agreement listed in Annexure A hereto agree to contest the 2024 national and provincial elections as autonomous individual parties. Okay? Autonomous individual parties, meaning the ACDP will not betray our values, will not betray our principles, will not betray the founding statements, will not betray what we agreed about. We have agreed to fight elections on some political issues that we don't have time to go into right now. So the multi-party charter is political parties that came together to discuss how, if there is a need of forming a coalition after the elections, when it is known who has which percentage, who is larger and who is smaller, and who can be part of that, to discuss what kind of rules do we want to guide and to govern political parties. Now, a white person would want to say, if they are going to make rules about me, I don't want to be away from the group that's making decisions about me. I want to have a say in the rules that these people are making. So that's the reasoning, and that's why the ACDP has decided to be part of the charter. But when it comes to issues that that are bringing us together, we agreed about them. Obviously, we don't want load shedding. We are tired of crime in the country. We are tired of this higher unemployment. We want jobs to be created. Okay, there are a number of issues that we have agreed that we are going to foreground them as a charter. But no political party will be stopped from promoting their own individual policies and values. So that is where we are. So Moonshot Pact is dead. No more Moonshot Pact. So it's multi-party charter that is just drafting the framework, the guidelines, or the rules that are going to govern future coalitions. Okay, so I trust that those who ask this question understand well now, that I trust that they understand that we are not part of Moonshot. If anybody says to you, ACDP is part of the Moonshot, say, no, we are not part of the Moonshot Pact. We are part of a team of political parties that are drafting the rules of how future coalitions are going to be governed. All right, thank you so much. That was the second one. Now, the third question. My co-pilot will answer this one. The question, it says, what is their, ACDP stand on triple BEE and land reformation? So DP, go for it, sir.
Thank you again, President. I think when triple BEE, the policy of triple BEE was first implemented, the ACDP believed that there needs to be some restitution because of the damage that was caused by the legacy of apartheid pre-1994. However, the ACDP had also said that BEE cannot continue in perpetuity, that there needed to be a sunset clause to triple BEE. We currently have in our schooling system, every South African child now has equal education. So you don't have an education, the Bantustan education, for example, and then a more privileged or superior education system for another group of our population. So education, all of our children currently are born, most of your children now are born free. So those who are in schools or in your universities, your first, second, third years, the vast majority of those are actually born free. They were born during the free democratic election process in South Africa. And so we believe that the sunset clause needed to be implemented so that you do not now disqualify or discriminate against the children in particular who have nothing to do with apartheid or the legacy of apartheid. So that was the position of the ACDP. Now, that's prior when BEE was first introduced. Currently, we reject triple BEE. We reject it because, one, it has exceeded its shelf life. Number two, we reject it also because triple BEE is not broad. It is very narrow, and it only benefits a very few of the cadres within the ruling party. So if you look at your multi-billionaires who have landed contracts, tenders, who have shares with large companies, these are largely individuals who are politically connected. So currently the ACDP has for at least the last 10 years, 8 to 10 years, the ACDP has indicated that BEE has passed its sell-by date, and that it cannot be implemented. What it's currently doing is that it's actually harming the country, it's harming the economy, it's turning businesses away, where there are demands that we speak about capital injection into the foreign direct investment into the country, but businesses that are coming in and are then told you have to have this BEE component, which to a large extent benefits only a few individuals who get shares in a particular company or shares in the investment of a particular company. And so businesses moving away from South Africa and going north to other African countries where they are welcomed and doesn't have these onerous triple BEE regulations that they have to comply with. So it hasn't been conducive, and we do not support it. Thirdly, I think the third reason why we do not support triple BEE is the fact that there are also psychological studies that have proven that when individuals are given positions based on the color of their skin and not their competence, that is actually harmful, psychologically harmful to those particular individuals. And there are plenty of psychological studies out there that prove that particular point. Let me just say on land expropriation, the ACDP has opposed expropriation of land without compensation right from the outset. I sat on the expropriation committee, section 25, and we argued against amending section 25 of the Constitution to allow for expropriation. They say to make explicit what is complicit within the Constitution. So the ACDP, together with many other political parties, except the ruling party and one or two others who wanted expropriation of land, the EFF wanted to go beyond expropriation of land. The EFF actually wanted land to come under the custodianship of the government. And that is actually a part of the EFF's policy. EFF's policy is the land doesn't belong to the people. It will belong to the state, and the state will apportion it to people or to businesses as they see fit. So the ACDP, right from the outset, has opposed expropriation without compensation and continued to do so. It will be harmful to our economy. It instead of building the economy, it will actually destroy the economy. There are sufficient cases out there that have shown, whether it's Zimbabwe, Venezuela, even Nigeria, and other African countries that went the expropriation route, it has destroyed those particular countries. Kgalema Motlanthe has actually indicated that where title deeds and the security of tenure is not protected, the consequences are too ghastly to contemplate. This is from Kgalema Motlanthe himself, when he did the land panel and found actually the problem with restitution lay with the land courts, and it lay also with the Department of Land Affairs. Corruption was one of the huge problems. It is actually said that of the land that has been taken or bought by government, where there's been for land restitution, some 80 to 90% of the recipients who firstly laid claim to the land decided not to take the land, but to actually take the money. And then of the 10 or so percent that decided to take the land, only 10% of the 10% are still currently farming. And so, unfortunately, it has worked. The expropriation of land without compensation has not worked. It will not work. And the ACDP stands opposed to it. There's so much more, President, that I can say. I do have a complete paper, a PowerPoint that I've actually done. It's 47 slides long. If anybody wants to know the ACDP position, I did this at the FCOP. I can make that available, and we'll send it to them in terms of explaining what the ACDP's position is on expropriation without compensation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. We have to make sure that all our provinces have that paper, so that if our members are asked a question in their different provinces, they will not say, hey, I must go and consult, I'll come back to you, that they should have the answers at their fingertips. So let's make sure that all provinces have that.
I'll send it to the Section President.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, sir. Obviously, we are talking, the last thing you're talking about is farming. Talking about food.
Question for.
Okay, they say there's a question. Where's the question? Okay, does ACDP respect our constitution and laws, legislations, and regulations like the Nuremberg Law? If so, why were they, or where were they? Now that's the English, that's how they wrote the question. Why were they in support of the vaccinations or poisoning of innocent people? Now, you can tell that this person is not an ACDP member, because the ACDP members know that I was actually the first person in parliament in the presence of the president to say, we will not support these vaccinations, particularly mandatory vaccinations, when we don't know what is in, what are the contents. We have requested, give us the contents, the ingredients, what makes this vaccine. They didn't want to tell, because they knew that there was something not right. So we opposed mandatory vaccinations. The ACDP did that. We even went to court to try to stop government to vaccinate children by force. In parliament, I said, among other things, to the president, that God Almighty, who wants everybody to be saved, does not force everybody to be saved. He wants them saved, but he doesn't force them. It's a choice. So I said, Mr. President, to take vaccine has to be a choice. It will be wrong to force people to take it. They try to force people, people hate. What we're saying, some resisted, some at their employment places, they were forced to take the vaccine. Unfortunately, they took it. But some of them approached us, ACDP, and they said, can you help us, please? We don't want this. We took the matters to court. There are some members of the public, if necessary, can bring some of them here to speak for themselves, that their companies were forcing them and threatening them with expulsion if they refuse to take them. We defended them, and some even took their companies to the CCMA. ACDP represented them at the CCMA, and we did not lose one case. So those who say ACDP was quiet, they don't know what they're talking about, some of them are lying. There was no political party that spoke against vaccines except the ACDP. And we will continue doing that. For those who do not know, that there are plans to introduce other vaccines and make them mandatory. The ACDP will continue to stand against that. There was a time when there was talk about monkeypox. Remember, we spoke about monkeypox. That was also going to be made mandatory, and we said, no, 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 not under our watch. That is our position. We oppose forced vaccinations. It has to be a free will. People need to take it because they want it. People like myself and my family don't want it. We'll never get them because we don't want it. And those who say they'll force us, we know how to deal with them as Christians from the spiritual point of view. We know why, because the Lord has taught us. When we say Matthew 18:18, those who go with us to church, they know that it's time to fight to win. We don't fight to lose, we fight to win. All right, having said that, let's move on before we lose time. Tonight we have two guests. Okay, there's a note that Tabisan says, indeed, the ACDP stance has always been to give people a choice on vaccination. The ACDP advocated for the use of ivermectin. Hey, that's another one. Tabisan, don't tempt me to go there. Okay, all right. We'll talk one day about ivermectin. The ACDP said people must have access to ivermectin. Government refused, and they said the ACDP want to give people horse medicine. Today, they're quiet. They're quiet today because we were right. Ladies and gentlemen, we were right. Manabeng Walter Machilo Lena says, I for one can testify on vaccine. I referred someone to ACDP and he got help. Thank you very much, Manabeng, for bringing that through to us. Okay, we have visitors tonight. Very interesting. I know some of us may not know much about what we are going to talk about. Food technology. Do you know that there are people who are food scientists? The two ladies I'm going to introduce to you are food scientists. They have studied food safety and management, among others. The first one, Kimme Tobile Mokhohlwa. She will be having load shedding soon. And if the background, her picture becomes dark, please let's understand it's because of load shedding. And her colleague, Kim Po Mudiba. Mpo, adjust your camera, lady. Happy. That's better. That's better. Thank you. Yeah, the other one, Kim Po Mudiba. So let's start. Your camera is dropping more. Mpo ise udimuyana ya drop camera aksa ubona. Re bona tlhogo fela. All right, Metobile.
How is it now?
Please.
Can you see me?
No.
Can you see me?
Lower the camera.
Can you see me?
All right. While you are busy with that, they will give you a call so that Tobile will start in the meantime. Tobile.
Yes.
Is it because you like food that you studied food safety?
Not at all, sir. Good evening, President. Good evening.
Welcome. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Please enlighten us. There are a number of people who are not sure what we are talking about. And when I first met you telephonically, I asked you the question, what about these spaza shops around you? Why don't you ensure that there is safety in the spaza shops? And you said, whatever you said to me, you're going to repeat here tonight so that people will understand. And also tell them that you are planning to build a lab. Okay?
Yes.
So you're going to tell us more about that, and we'll see also how to help you going into the future. Welcome, Paul. Yeah, now you are clearly visible. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Okay, let's Tobile start, and then you'll get your slides a little bit later.
Okay, thank you, President. So I will start with giving a brief summary of what food technology or food science is. So in a nutshell, food science, it's a branch of scientific principles that involve chemistry, microbiology, and engineering in food production, food processing, and the distribution of food or the transportation of food. And it uses these applications to address the challenges that we have. And then I think we all know that, in terms of food safety in South Africa, currently we are facing a lot of challenges. And then it it addresses the inefficiencies that we have in the food industry. For example, the application of food technology will be in the preservation of food, the processing of food, developing food processes, food safety. That is our passion at the moment. We would like to tackle food safety in our communities. It's applicable in new product development. Now and then you'll find these new products that are on the shelf that have been developed, like maybe an instant SAM, or instant porridge. So that would be where food technology will be applicable. So to introduce MNT, which is our company, myself and Mpho, my partner, it's a skills development, food safety training. It trains the food handlers and it focuses on the legislation, because there's a legislation R638 which requires that every food handler, every person who handles food for a consumer has to be trained in this legislation. It's a hygienic requirements for all food premises, for all transportation of food, anything that is food related. So we train all the food business operators that fall under the Department of Health. And it's a consultant company as well in food safety management systems. So we develop food safety management systems for companies, and we assist them in the implementation of the systems. We also assist them in the maintenance of the food safety management systems as well. So that is what MNT is, which is founded by the two ladies, Mpho and myself, Thobile. Our background is that we are qualified food technologists. So coming to you, President, the question of, there's this debacle, we are facing. There's fraudulent food that is being sold. There's food that it's expired, that we find on our shelves. As food technologists, it's not like we are sitting back folding our arms. We don't have the authority to go out there, and close the shops. It's a jurisdiction of the food inspectors. The food inspectors, they fall under the directive of the food control, which is in the Department of Health. So they are registered with the HPCSA, the Health Professions Council. So they have the power. If somebody is selling expired food or fraudulent food, they have the power to close the business. They have the power to take their licenses away. As food technologists, we don't have that power. But, for me and Mpho, it's something that we said, and then we decided that, we can't just sit back and, helpless. We need to step in. We need to collaborate, partner with the municipalities and train these food businesses. So that we can assist these businesses to close the gaps that they have in terms of compliance, because the regulations as well, they need to comply with these regulations. There are sub-regulations that they need to meet. So we want to step in to say, even though we are not registered, with the Department of Health or with the HPCSA, but we can come in and assist and collaborate, with these businesses and train them and close, the gaps. And then at the end, the consumer is going to be the winner, because right now we have our kids who are actually eating this food and they're dying. So the situation currently, it's very desperate for us.
Yeah, I realize that Mpho has a challenge with connectivity. Are you there, Mpho?
Yeah.
Mpho?
Yes.
All right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello, can you
Yes.
hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think maybe the bandwidth, maybe
Okay.
there's some challenge.
Can you see me?
We can see you and we can hear you. Go ahead, please. Obviously, the question I want you two ladies to answer,
Okay.
even though you are
All right.
not registered with the Department of Health, you have
Yes.
to be registered. Okay, our position as ACB is that you
Yes.
have to be registered so that somebody can have the authority to shut down businesses that are not complying. Because today
Correct.
businesses, government is aware, government knows that particularly in these pasta shops in the townships, people who sell food sleep in the same shop. And they don't have toilets outside. The toilets are inside where the food is. And government is doing nothing about it. That's why ACDP is going to make this matter a matter of elections. We are going to say to the people, if you are tired of eating food and having food that causes your children to be sick and to die and whatever, you have to vote for the ACDP because we'll ensure that you have clean food because of clean technology that is available, and will make it mandatory that people must be licensed, and those who do not comply, we take the licenses and shut down their companies.
It's
So
true,
a
President.
question is about water. Now, water is a problem. Have you also studied about what to do to ensure that people drink clean water? And is there anything that you can do or your studies are suggesting can be done with people that are getting drinking water from rivers that are polluted even by animals?
Okay, in terms of water, we've studied food microbiology, and I think you mentioned earlier, I think it's a point that I did not touch with a microbiological lab. It's something that it's in our, midterm goal that we want to set up a food and water microbiological lab to test for microorganisms, especially those pathogenic ones, those that can cause illness, those that can cause disease. So in terms of water, yes, we know that water is not supposed to have E. coli. It's not supposed, in terms of the microorganisms, especially the tankers, those areas where there's no running water, they use tankers. We can run tests on those tankers to make sure that they are kept in a hygienic condition for people who drink or who receive water from those tanks.
All right, somebody's asking a question about when you look at the ingredients in food, all there is poison for us, for our bodies. Okay, how do you ensure that ingredients are not poisonous and do not compromise the health of our people? With your studies?
Okay. Yes, yes, with the, in this field of food technology. So most of the manufacturers, they don't want to declare in the ingredients because there's a food labeling regulation R146. So it states that you need to declare all the ingredients, but there are some of the ingredients, they are given codes, especially the colorants, especially the colorants. Some of them are even banned, they are not supposed to be used. So that's why most of the people will advise that if you can't read it, if you don't understand it, then don't eat it, don't buy it, because some of those their codes that are given to the colorants that they use in food. Some of them are flavorants that they use in foods, and then some of those they are natural, but some are synthetic. So personally, I would advise that, if you can't read it, if you don't understand it, then you can stay away from it. But now, some,
okay, DP.
Yes.
Okay, DP, I'm sure you also have a question. Let me ask my last question. Synthetic foods. We know that Bill Gates wants synthetic meat to be introduced because he says cows are adding to the problem of climate change, so we must get rid of cows and just eat synthetic. What would you say as a food scientist to that?
So what I would say about that is that it's something, for me, it's new. So it's something that I wouldn't eat personally because there isn't a lot of data behind it. So it's something that I wouldn't eat. You know, it hasn't been studied enough. It hasn't been peer reviewed enough for me. So, and besides, I think it's super expensive, you know, for that at the moment, because it's still, you know, developed in a petri dish. So it's something that is expensive. But for me personally, I wouldn't, you know, consume a product with no scientific backed data, you know, behind it.
The same with me. DP, you have something?
Yes, sir. I had a friend that I met in the United States, and he was gluten intolerant.
Yes.
He spoke about the fact that he was sent home by the doctors to die because they did not know what was wrong with him. Long story short, found out that it was gluten that was the problem, cut out gluten from his diet, and today the Lord is using him powerfully around the world. Now, that speaks to two things. One is with regards to gluten, which is impacted by the GMO foods that we are eating. So how would we advise people with regards to genetically modified foods, as well as the gluten content in foods that is causing so many health issues in people?
So firstly, honorable member, the gluten it's a protein that is naturally available in your flours, your breads. I think some of the oats, they have gluten, so it's not synthetic. It's naturally in those products, in flour. So you'll find that a person won't eat bread because it's got gluten, so they're intolerant to that. You know, some of those diseases, I think it's something that we've developed. I don't know, maybe we are evolving, or maybe before are things that were ignored and then they were just, you know, taken lightly. But the gluten, it's a natural protein that it's inherent in wheat. Mostly your pastas, they have gluten. So with GMO, which are totally two different. So in terms of GMO, you know, me
Sorry,
being
could I disturb you? My thing,
yes.
the reason why I linked it was because it is said that with the GMO foods, it actually increases the gluten content within your wheat and your maize and so on. And that is what actually causes the problem. It's the hiring of your gluten content within the foods. So it's far beyond what God originally created it to be. So that's why I linked the two.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah. So in terms of GMO, you know, I was gonna say, with me being a food technologist, and then it's an area of biotechnology as well, which is the same area as food science, food technology. So those are, you know, are the programs or processes that we use, you know, to try, like I explained earlier, that, you know, food technology, it applies, you know, this principle to tackle the challenges, you know, in the system to try and improve efficiency. So you would use biotechnology as a form of GMO, genetically modify an organism. Like for example, maybe we have, especially here in Africa, you have maize. You want to develop a maize that is drought resistant. Maybe you have a particular area that it's prone to a particular type of pest. You want to develop maybe it's a staple product that is resistant to those type of pests. So when it comes to that, it makes sense to me. But it's when people, maybe they sort of like go overboard, you know, and develop like the meat, you know, the patty hamburger that it's grown in a petri dish, then I would say maybe that's going overboard. But there are some areas of GMO or biotechnology that definitely, you know, will benefit, you know, some of the poorest, you know, areas that needs that type of.
All right.
Yes.
May I step in now?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mpho, so sorry we could not listen to you
Yeah,
tonight, but
I do apologize for her.
Okay, no problem, we understand. There are questions that are being sent in now, meaning that you'll have to come back to answer the questions. You'll have to, maybe next week we'll start with answering the questions that people are sending. The comments are very, very interesting and very nice. And so next week we'll answer those questions. I hope that Mpho will also be ready to jump in and answer the questions. Okay, we now have to move on. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. But one of the important things that we need to do is to talk about restoring law and order in South Africa. Crime, obviously, is unacceptably too high. This week only, or last week only, 1 week, murders. People's consciences are dead. Imagine killing somebody. While that person is lying dead next to you, you take a selfie next to the person you have killed. That's the man. He killed his fellow worker. And they say he cut his intestines, cut his stomach open, and then he took a selfie with. This is the South Africa we're living in. And he's doing this while people are watching. Why? Because he fears nobody. Government is like a toothless dog, toothless bulldog. Scream, scream, scream. Say we're going to do something, they do nothing. That is why we talk of removing them, replacing them. We need a godly government. Now, there are steppings. We just want to show you some of them so that you see the seriousness of what we are facing. That one was a worker disturbing his fellow worker, taking a selfie with a friend who has died, whose intestines were taken out by him. Now, obviously, the man was arrested. We'll talk about it later. Now, the second picture. This is a man, students, who stepped trying to kill his girlfriend, stabbed her several times. Good news is that the young lady is recovering in hospital. The young lady is recovering in hospital. She's fighting for her life. Now, I'm saying to you, friends, one of the things that we in the ACDP would like to see is that government should stop paying or making a blanket payment for all the people who have committed crimes, while not paying their families. When they have to take the matter to court, they are victims. Government is not helping them. And the one that caused them pain, government helps them. Is that justice? I say no. Interestingly, if you read Proverbs 28:5, verse 5 says, evil men don't understand justice, but those who seek the Lord understand it fully. Guys, we are responsible before God to ensure that there is justice on earth. That's what the Bible says. Those who seek the Lord, you and I, followers of Christ, the scripture says we understand justice. That's why we are saying what is happening is wrong. Why? Because we understand justice. And yet, how many God-fearing judges are sitting in the Supreme Court of Appeal? How many? How many are in the Constitutional Court? We used to be happy to have a Chief Justice that proclaimed Christ. And those who followed his judgments, they say his judgments were righteous. Why? Because those who seek the Lord understand justice, but evil men Godless men, according to scripture, don't understand justice. That is why it is our responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, to ensure that we are going to give the country a model of justice. What ACDP is going to do to ensure that crime in South Africa is eliminated or drastically reduced. It is not fair and it is not right that people can live in fear in their countries. People can live in fear in their homes. Now people are living in fear in their churches because there's no justice in South Africa. Criminals have lost respect for everybody, including for government. Lost respect even and fear of God. They've lost everything. It has to change. That's why the ACDP has to prepare to govern in this country. We have to prepare to govern. We have to work hard. We have to make inroads. We have many bright people, bright minds that are out there that we need to bring them in so that we can say to the Lord, Lord, we are ready to govern. Give us men and women who are skillful men and women who will be able to ensure that we make South Africa one of the best, if not the best country in the whole world. If Jesus tarries and he gives us another 10 years, I promise you, through the ACDP, we are going to have something that will cause people to ask the question, why did we wait so long before we put the ACDP in government? We believe in justice. The scriptures say righteousness and justice are the foundation of God's throne. Let's get rid of the current government. Legally, constitutionally, through the ballot box, and ensure that we have men and women who fear God, who are well-equipped, who are skilled to bring justice on earth. Righteousness exalts a nation. We need the righteous in government. But sin is a disgrace to any people. Disgraceful things are happening in South Africa. Why? Because the righteous are not in leadership. So with those words, I want to say goodbye for tonight. Next week, we're going to meet again. But my co-pilot, DP, say your last shot, sir. Your last shot, your last words before we close. And we say goodbye to everybody. Unmute, sir. Unmute. I can see your lips moving.
My apologies. Just want to say thank you also, especially to our guests. I think that what they have shared has been very informative. Hopefully we'll be able to connect with them, Paul, next week when they come on again. And then very sad, President, I think my stomach turned when I saw some of those pictures just in terms of the crime statistics and how far worse our situation is getting. And again, it's another reason why South Africa needs the ACDP. And we want to encourage you to please spread the message that change has got to come to South Africa. And that change is the ACDP. So in the elections 2024, the ACDP is your party of choice. Thank you, sir.
Well, it's the only party of choice. Who else? Which other party? We are the only party of choice. So please work hard. Reach out. We know that God blesses hard work. All right? We are going to work hard. We are going to tell people about the ACDP. We are going to ensure that those who say we are tired, we are not going to vote anymore. We say, listen to what the ACDP has for you. The ACDP is not led by a bunch of crooks and liars, people who graduated from some universities with lying and corruption and so on. We want to make South Africa an excellent country. And by the grace of God, it is going to happen. So to our guests, Mpoli Tobile, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you for what we have shared. Our people are very interested. As I said, they have a line of questions that will be waiting for you next week. Thank you very much for being with us. All those who have tuned, our brothers and sisters, we love you very much and we thank you for what you're doing. As the DP says, South
Thank
Africa
you.
needs
Hope it works
the
well
AC
the next time.
Thank you. God bless you. South Africa needs the ACDP and the ACDP needs you. God bless you. Have a wonderful, beautiful, blessed evening. God bless.